Donnie Yen was so dangerous that during the filming of Ip Man 3, Mike Tyson ended up injured after a demanding combat choreography. Yes, you heard right, Mike Tyson. His level of intensity was so well known that many specialists and actors thought twice about accepting a fight scene with him. But why did stuntmen fear Donnie Yen? In Killzone, the fight between Donnie Yen and Wu Jing was extremely painful because of the intensity of the action scenes. Throughout much of the alley fight, Donnie wielded a telescopic baton while Wu Jing carried a knife, and they simply charged at each other in front of the camera. The result was so raw and physical that many viewers couldn't believe it was fiction. In fact, the intensity was so real that Donnie Yen repeatedly struck Wu Jing's arms during full-speed blocking sequences, leaving him sore after filming. The stunt performers who worked on that set knew they were part of a production unlike any other. And that was exactly the problem for anyone who had to work alongside Donnie Yen, because his demanding standards didn't end when he was acting. They began when he was choreographing. During Flashpoint, Yen pushed the stunt team to their absolute limits. There are accounts of production being delayed because the fight choreography kept evolving on the very day of filming. The budget spiraled because Yen wasn't satisfied with how the impact looked on camera. He didn't want it to look like a fight, he wanted it to feel like one. Yen himself admitted that in Flashpoint, wires were used only sparingly, essentially as a safety measure, not to enhance the action. What audiences see in those fight scenes is what actually happened on set. The only difference is that sometimes they had to repeat it 10 or even 20 times, 10 or 20 takes of full contact action. For the stunt performers, that wasn't filmmaking. It was mandatory training and a real nightmare. Then came Ip Man. The fight against the 10 black belts became one of the most iconic sequences in the history of martial arts cinema. What many viewers don't realize is that Yen performed those rapid Wing Chun combinations over and over through multiple takes, each time with the exact same intensity. The extras and stunt performers involved in those scenes quickly learned that staying out of the range of his fists wasn't optional. It was a matter of survival. But what happened with Mike Tyson in the third film was even worse. When it was announced that Donnie Yen would fight Mike Tyson in Ip Man 3, no one on set was at ease, but the concern wasn't what everyone expected. Donnie Yen's own wife publicly admitted that she was worried about her husband's safety when Mike Tyson was cast in the film, and for good reason. Yen later confessed that he approached the filming of that scene as a matter of life and death.
And I said to myself, hey, fighting Mike Tyson would be a historic goal, right? So I prepare myself. I said, wow, what if he, no disrespect, but what if he doesn't remember the choreography? If he comes in with, instead of 1, 2, 3, he goes 2, 3, 1. I'd be, that's it. So it was enjoyable, but at the same time, it was truly life-threatening.
During filming, one part of the choreography required Tyson to throw a left hook and smash a heavy bag just inches from Yen's face. Yen later recalled feeling the punch fly past him at 90 miles per hour, saying the sound of the wind rushing by was like a tornado. But what nobody anticipated was the exact opposite. While blocking Tyson's punches with his elbow, a Wing Chun technique, Yen accidentally fractured Tyson's finger. Neither of them realized it until the following day, when Tyson showed up on set with his finger wrapped in a bandage. Tyson jokingly told reporters, "Everyone was worried that Donnie might get hurt. Nobody was worried about me. Now I'm the one who's injured, and nobody came to comfort me." The man who was supposed to be the threat ended up being the one who got hurt, and that wasn't a production accident. It was the direct result of decades of real martial arts training transformed into automatic reflexes. To understand why stunt performers feared Donnie Yen, you first have to understand what made the way he struck so different. During the filming of his movies, more than one stunt performer discovered something unsettling about working with Donnie Yen. When one of his punches landed just a few inches closer than intended, it stopped looking like a movie. And that wasn't carelessness. It was the inevitable result of years of training in real martial arts. While many actors learned how to throw punches only for the camera, Yen had built something entirely different. He mastered Wing Chun, Wushu, kickboxing, Muay Thai, Judo, and Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. incorporating mixed martial arts into his skill set and bringing that cutting-edge knowledge back to action cinema. What made Donnie Yen's punches so dangerous wasn't just their power, it was their speed. In the Wing Chun fight scenes from Ip Man, he unleashed chains of punches so fast that, after repeating the same sequences take after take, he sometimes felt as if he had been in a real fight. And that speed, combined with decades of real contact martial arts training, meant that even a miscalculation of a few millimeters could have immediate consequences. That's why his co-stars in Killzone and Flashpoint knew exactly what to expect. World-class fighters like Cung Le and Mike Tyson openly stated that Yen would do very well in a real fight. Those aren't the kinds of comments people make about ordinary actors. They say them about genuine fighters. And whenever Donnie Yen turned up the intensity on set, the line between fiction and reality stopped mattering. When people think of Donnie Yen, they remember the movies. They remember Ip Man taking down 10 opponents. They remember Ma Kwon with the baton in Killzone. They remember the final fight in Flashpoint. But there's one detail many people don't know. Behind all of that, Yen was also the action choreographer, the architect of everything you were watching. He wasn't just the actor performing the moves. He was the man who designed them, demanded them, and repeated them until they were perfect. The stunt performers lived under that constant pressure and stress because that dual role came with enormous responsibility. Donnie Yen wasn't just a perfectionist, he also carried the responsibility of making sure every fight scene reached the highest possible standard. In Hong Kong action cinema, the action choreographer takes complete control of the fight sequences. He decides the camera angles, the choreography, and the balance between action and drama. The main director steps aside. Yen worked exactly that way on most of his productions. That meant whenever Donnie Yen wasn't satisfied with a punch, a camera angle, or the visual impact of a fall, the scene was done again, as many times as it took. He won the Hong Kong Film Award for Best Action Choreography 4 times, making him one of the most decorated action choreographers in history. He was recognized for his work on The Twins Effect, Killzone, Flashpoint, and Kung Fu Jungle. But behind every one of those awards were stunt performers who paid the price with their own bodies, including on Donnie Yen's own sets. And whenever real-world fighters crossed paths with him, the story always ended the same way. Cung Le, the former Strikeforce world champion, and Mike Tyson, the former heavyweight boxing world champion, both publicly stated that Donnie Yen was an extraordinary martial artist who would have been successful in real combat competition. Those aren't the kinds of things people say about actors. They say them about fighters, and that was exactly why his stunt performers didn't just work with him, they studied how to move around him. Over the years, younger action stars emerged. More explosive athletes came along. Martial artists with even more titles appeared, but almost no one managed to replicate what turned Donnie Yen into a legend. Because the secret was never just his speed. The secret was that his speed came from decades of training across multiple martial arts disciplines that almost no one else had combined in the same way, applied with a level of intensity that made every film set feel dangerously close to a real fight. From Ip Man to John Wick, Chapter 4, there was something about the way Yen moved that other actors simply couldn't replicate, and Hollywood eventually took notice. Director Chad Stahelski, one of the most respected action filmmakers and stunt coordinators in the industry, described Yen as someone driven by a relentless determination to always push further, a trait he developed during his early years in the almost military-like culture of Hong Kong action cinema. But even in Hollywood, Yen remained true to himself. When he was hired to choreograph Blade 2, he later described the experience as one of the worst moments of his career because the producers expected him to create technical, highly polished fight scenes in just a couple of hours. That was completely incompatible with the way he worked, with the standards he demanded, and with the way his stunt performers knew they would end every shooting day. His punches looked dangerous because they were built on real combat fundamentals. And when a former heavyweight boxing champion ended up with a fractured finger during filming, it became clear that the danger wasn't a cinematic illusion. It was exactly what stunt performers had known for years. Because if Donnie Yen's punches were that dangerous on a movie set, just imagine what happened during training. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, I highly recommend checking out my video on Tony Jaa, where I dive deeper into his career as an action choreographer and how he changed action cinema forever. You don't want to miss it. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next epic video.